what he brings to the table is a level of energy and positivity that makes you just believe.
He's not just my realtor, but he's my property manager as well as a dear friend.
It was very easy to get a hold of him. He was very good at communicating and always picked up the phone when I called.
My name is Gil Levy, and I'm honored being able to give Robert Morillo a positive testimonial, review, shout out, whatever you might want to call it.
Robert is a very fine individual, very solid individual.
I've been working with Robert for the past few years. I'm also his go-to photographer.
He's on top of his job and he's very driven and focused, and he will get the job done.
He is your go-to. Robert does not take any shortcuts. This man is trustworthy, he's efficient, work ethic like nobody else in the market.
If he doesn't get the job done, he can tell you who can get the job done.
And I highly recommend choosing Robert for your next listing.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome to episode 5 of So You Can Florida. This is Robert Morillo with the Cardona Signature Group of Compass, Florida. I am live here with Alexis Littlejohn of Holistic Essentials. Today we're going to be talking about health and nutrition. We are doing a health and nutritional episode to feature what would go down in Alexis's kitchen. So welcome everybody, Alexis Littlejohn. Alexis, how you doing?
I am doing good. Glad to be here. Thank you for bringing me on.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thanks for accepting our invite and joining us today.
Absolutely.
Today we want to talk about, what is your process in everything that you advise your clients. For those of you who follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you've mentioned, I'm sure you've seen me mention Alexis before.
Yes.
I've actually had the pleasure of testing a few of her meals that she was sampling for her cookbook. So
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your process, how you prepare your meals, and how you consult with your clients.
Okay, so I guess first it makes sense to give my background. So I am a certified holistic nutritionist and restorative wellness practitioner. Now, in a nutshell, that simply means I focus on restoring balance in the body through nutrition and other mindful practices. Now, when I first began this journey of health coaching, I was building like a lot of meal plans for my clients, and some clients were benefiting, others were not. So that, of course, made me go back to the drawing board, and I realized that all foods are not designed initially for everyone, right? Not necessarily saying it's not designed initially, but for instance, if you're eating broccoli, asparagus, and you're noticing that, hey, these foods are not really working with my system, and I'm not really getting those results that I truly want, what is going on? It's not necessarily that you're the problem, but you may have something that's happening inside with your digestive tract that may be prohibiting you from fully absorbing the nutrients and benefiting from those foods. So now in my practice, I offer testing, and this testing is really, really key in determining what's going on with your body and what you actually need so you can begin healing. Now, as far as the foods that I make, of course, Robert has had the opportunity to sample a lot of those dishes. I'm actually going to be releasing a cookbook soon, and my cookbook is focused around plant-based options. Oftentimes I get people coming to me saying, oh my God, I can't eat that. I'm still starving. I'm not full. It's not satisfying. And I have really done my very best to create meals that are going to be very satisfying but also nourishing as well. And Robert got a chance to sample all those dishes. I think 3 weeks worth of meals, right? So my process.
It was a good holiday season, to
yes,
say the least.
yes. So I am super glad that he has enjoyed them. I had a lot of people, of course, sampling those meals. So I'll be releasing that cookbook soon. Haven't confirmed a date yet, but it will be coming up soon. But as far as my process, many of my clients that come to me are having digestive issues. Some are not really always aware they're having digestive issues. But we then find out by asking, of course, a series of questions like, how are you feeling? Are you fatigued? Are you constipated? Do you have acne? Or those types of things. Are you experiencing symptoms related to irritable bowel syndrome? So that allows me to begin the process. And then if they're confirming with those types of things, that's a key to be like, hey, let's do the work. Let's figure out what's going on and let's offer that testing.
Okay. So essentially, what you're saying is it's when it comes to your process, it's not a one size fits all thing.
Exactly.
So, although you may be putting together a cookbook with a whole bunch of meals, it's not necessarily, hey, this is gonna fix everybody who tries it.
Exactly. Because one of the things that we are not often taught, if you're not producing enough stomach acid, those digestive enzymes that ultimately help break down your food, then how do you really expect to receive the nutrients from that food? That food you're not going to fully benefit from it. So with my programs, with that testing, it allows us to identify, hey, are you producing enough stomach acid? Because if you are not, you're not going to be properly breaking down the protein and all the other nutrients from your food to then transition to the next phase of digestion. So those types of things are really critical to understand, because if there is some level of dysfunction, and that would be dysfunction, right? You're not producing enough, that can create issues and prohibit you from reaching your health goals.
Yeah, so because when I first approached you, I guess I came from the angle of, my curiosity in going vegan and that lifestyle.
Yeah.
But then when I realized how much of an expert you were in your field, and all the knowledge that you were able to share about your meals and the food and ingredients that you use and the impact that they have on people's digestive tracts, it made me realize that, what you provide, what you offer is actually more of a healing, and figuring out, through your testing, how, someone's body is functioning based on the foods and ingredients that they're consuming.
Absolutely.
So with that said, I mean, I didn't really want to have a shitty conversation, but I do want to dig a little deeper into the testing and how that works and what you look for. How long does the testing take for you to get the results, and how do you assess what would be best after you get the results for the client?
Okay, that was a loaded question. So typically the process works like this. I offer 2 tests. One is a GI Map Stool Test. The other is an MRT food sensitivity test. Now with this GI Map Stool Test, it is going to help us identify what's happening within your gut. And when I say what's happening in your gut, are you producing enough stomach acid? Are you properly breaking down fast, digesting fast, right? Do you have parasites? Do you have worms? Do you have any other pathogens that may be creating some level of issues within your body?
And how common is something like that for someone to
goodness.
have parasites or worms? Is that something that you can have inside you without even noticing?
You can have parasites. A lot of people do and are not aware of it. Honestly, I had a parasite in my large intestine when I did the testing about a year ago, and I was really shocked. But honestly, just walking around barefoot or just having exposure to certain types of food, like parasites live on like our fruits and vegetables and just even in meats and so on and so forth. So you can easily take in parasites that way. You can also take them in from, walking around, because our feet, when they're wet, they're almost like sponges. They absorb everything. So you can take those types of things in through your feet as well. But it's not necessarily uncommon for that. But I, again, had a parasite, and I had to create a protocol and get rid of the parasite. But with my testing, it's going to highlight those areas. And when you highlight those areas, you're able to address, okay, so I have a parasite, I have a worm, what do we need to do to eradicate this, right? So it's going to highlight all those types of things. Now, the other test that I offer is the MRT food sensitivity test. Now, with this particular test, it highlights 170 foods and chemicals. Your traditional test that you typically go to the doctor to get is not going to highlight chemicals. And with the foods that we are exposed to, oftentimes they have a lot of chemicals in them. So they can be creating a lot of havoc in your gut. But when we're able to identify what foods you should be eating, this is customized to you. It's not guessing or giving generalizations and saying, hey, we're going to give this to you and hope it works. And then you come back and say, hey, I've been eating all these healthy foods. They're not working for me. there's a reason why. They may actually be classified as food sensitivities for you. And food sensitivities can ultimately affect any organ system in the body, and it can present itself as causing a rash, constipation, bloating, so on and so forth. And a lot of people are experiencing those types of issues, which is why rather than guessing at what you need, you know exactly what foods you can eat, right, to fully support you in that healing process. And then, of course, after I get those test results back, I'm able to create a customized protocol for you that makes sense so you can begin the healing journey.
Okay, so with those tests, I mean, is it something, how do you determine which test someone should take, and how long does each test take to get the results?
So,
Is it good to take both tests in conjunction?
So yes, so with those particular tests, I typically determine how, if that individual needs a testing based upon their symptom presentation. Again, oftentimes people come to me with ulcerative colitis, acne, eczema, just digestive issues in general, and then also people that are struggling to lose weight. You're struggling to lose weight, you're not properly detoxing, you're probably not properly absorbing nutrients from your food, you're holding a lot of fat around your midsection, so that is also an issue. And oftentimes most people are experiencing that. 60% of the population is either obese or overweight, and is due to the processed food. Most people are eating a standard American diet, which does it doesn't support a healthy lifestyle, because it's a lot of processed food, it's cheap vegetable oils, right? And then on top of that, the sugars and the salts that are added, and those typically don't really have any nutritional value. So our meals are more calorie dense than nutrient dense. But as far as determining if those individuals are right for my services, that's where we start. What's going on with you? Like, what are your symptom presentations, right? And
so that's what the client comes to you with.
Yes.
Like, they already know what the issue is.
Exactly.
And then you're just helping to pinpoint it through those tests.
Exactly. So when those tests come back, usually the symptoms that they're experiencing correspond with what we're seeing on the test, right?
Okay, got it.
And to use myself in this example, I was having abdominal pain. I had my acne, which just kind of like took over, and my bowels were not regular. Like, my stools were inconsistent.
Gotcha.
So that was my symptom presentation. So when I went to look at my test results, I found that a parasite was in my large intestine. I also had a presence of H. pylori, which can create ulcers within your digestive tract, so in your intestines. So
you can tell which intestine the parasite, like you can locate where it's at.
So I actually did some additional research to be able to pinpoint where those particular parasites are going to actually usually live. So
attack.
Yes.
So to speak, yeah.
Exactly. So that one actually lived in my large intestine. So what I then did after I realized that, I'm like, okay, so my symptom presentation, me having abdominal pain, me not being able to poop like I want to, and then my skin breaking out, the parasite, the H. pylori, all of it made sense, because those types of things can create those symptoms. So I was like, okay, so let's do the work. Let's take out these foods that are triggering me, right? And then I began doing the work, and then I was able to heal. But with those particular tests, we always encourage to have them done together, because if you just have a GI Map Stool Test, it's going to look and see what's going on in your digestive tract, right? Which is great. But if you don't know what foods to take out, then you're really not doing yourself any justice. Because if you have a parasite, parasites like carby foods and sugar. So if you don't take out the foods that are going to be contributing to the issue, then you're going to stay at a standstill. And the same thing with the food. Some people will have a food sensitivity test done, and they're like, okay, well, these foods are trigger foods for me, right? I'm going to take these foods out, but you still don't know what's happening internally, right? As far as if you might have a parasite, a worm, if you're not producing enough stomach acid, you can take out the foods. It may provide temporary relief, but it's not fully addressing what's happening on a functional level.
So essentially, you're getting down to the root of the problem.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
All right, and then once you get the results, right, how difficult is it? How much of a challenge do these clients have in letting go of certain foods and you eliminating certain foods from their diets in order to properly get rid of those symptoms and go through the whole cleansing process? Because it sounds like the healing you have to go through a proper cleanse in order to
Yes.
reach the healing.
Yes. So, oftentimes it is not a cakewalk because when you're
No
taking
pun intended.
yeah. When you're taking foods out of people's diets that they've eaten for years, right? You've grown attachments to those foods and you're just like, oh my God, like.
And it's almost like a drug. Some people
It
go
is.
through withdrawals.
Yes, and you will. I even went through withdrawals through mine, but it's not something that is going to be easy. Healing is not something that feels good, right? It's something that is uncomfortable and it's going to completely push you out of your comfort zone, but it's necessary to begin the healing process. So oftentimes, the first few weeks, it is a transition because once you're taking out those chemicals, your body is detoxing, and everybody has different detox symptoms. So you maybe get a rash, you might have acne, you may be a little bit more constipated. But after maybe a week or two, those symptoms usually dissipate, and then you'll begin kind of starting to reap the benefits of what you're doing because you pulled out all those toxins, and your body is beginning the healing process. Now, what I do also always tell my clients, if we find that you have those foods that are food sensitivities, right? You have to remove those foods. And I personally, when I was going through the program, I had
You put yourself through the program.
Yes, I had to because I do not want to put anybody through something that I haven't experienced myself. That does not make sense.
Yeah,
but
of course.
even with that, I love onions. Onions was a food sensitivity for me. Like growing up, I would sit in the garden, I could pull onions out the ground and eat an onion.
Like an apple.
Yes.
I remember you telling me about that.
I was hurt when I saw onions on there, but I had friends, of course, cook a few meals for me during my protocol, and I didn't even think to ask them, hey, did it have onions in it?
Gotcha.
And I immediately got like fatigue, a headache. The next time it actually happened, I ordered out and it didn't have like the food onions listed on there, and then I had diarrhea. So when you eat foods that you are sensitive to, that you should be removing for that period of time, and you eat them again, it sets you back on your protocol, and you will typically experience some type of discomfort. And for me, mine showed up as diarrhea, fatigue, headaches, and then the last time it happened, I actually was using an oil on my hair. It had onion and garlic, and I wasn't even thinking about it.
And the ingredients of the
oil?
oil?
Yes, it was straight onion and garlic oil. It was supposed to stimulate hair growth, make your hair thicker, and just really hydrate your hair. So I decided, I'm going to put this in my hair. Wasn't thinking about the onions in it. And the back of my neck broke out.
Oh, wow.
In a rash. And I was like, oh my God.
Same day or next day?
I would say maybe a few hours later. It was that quick. It was that quick for me. And I was like, oh my God, this has onions in it. And that in itself told me right there, like my clients have to follow the plan. Not to say that you're going to be perfect, but if you do, you are going to experience some level of discomfort. And that was my discomfort. So.
And how long does your consultation last? Like once both tests have been taken, we've gotten the results, how long is your diet program? Are you looking to make an impact that would change the course of their diets for the rest of their lives, or is it for a certain period of time and then gradually they can add certain things back into their diet? Or is it like a permanent fix?
So typically with my programs, they're 6 months long. In the first month, we're doing the testing, right? We're gonna have the testing done, and once the tests come back, I will of course create a protocol. Now that protocol includes diet, lifestyle, and supplement recommendations.
Okay.
Now, after we, of course, give you your protocol, that program typically is going to be for 3 months. After that 3-month period, we're then going to retest. And when we retest, we're only retesting the GI Map Stool Test so we can figure out what's happening within your gut. There's no need to do the food sensitivity test. Again, we already know your foods, but we need to see if improvement has been made as far as your overall gut health, right? Now, typically what happens is those things are gone. And if you were following the protocol to the T, of course, and not eating those foods that may be contributing to that parasite to continue to grow, and you're taking those supplements, the goal, of course, is to have those things eliminated. Now, oftentimes when you're going through something that is more holistic, you have to understand that healing is not linear. And when I say healing is not linear, it's not step 1, 2, 3, and 4. It may be step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, rather than being that cookie cutter. And oftentimes when you're taking supplements and you're pretty much bringing up stuff in your system, right? You're trying to eradicate it. other things may actually appear, right, that we may need to address because you're cleaning up your body. And this is something that a lot of people don't do on a consistent basis or even a yearly basis, right? So it may actually reveal more things that are present in that second GI Map Stool Test. So if it does, we then will work with you at that point. If it does not, and we find that, hey, you have gotten rid of that parasite, your stomach acid has improved so you can break down your foods, the next 3 months of that program is going to be more of a maintenance phase and really establishing those habits so that after the program, you can actually continue on and not go back and shift into bad habits and then, of course, welcome back in parasites or whatever your issue was. It's not something that's temporary. This is a lifelong journey. It's not just a diet that you do to quickly lose weight, but it really comes down to establishing habits that are going to support you from now and beyond.
Gotcha. So how would you? I mean, essentially, your name is Holistic Essentials. How would you describe your diet? Because it's not necessarily like you're vegan. It's not necessarily that you're keto. Like, what would you describe the type of program you put your clients on?
So,
or do you label it in those categories based on a person's particular situation?
So I always go based upon preference. Of course, I'm vegetarian, have been for a little over 5 years at this point. And even with me being vegetarian, that's not something that I force on anyone. It's, of course, your prerogative. But oftentimes when we go to the doctor and have blood tests done and we're looking at our vitamin levels, you rarely see that people are deficient in protein. Simply put, it's all those other vitamins and nutrients that we're not typically getting. And those typically come from plants. So I really try to promote eating more fruits and vegetables. Yeah. Because that's where the deficiencies are. And with a lot of my clients, a lot of them aren't eating enough fruits and vegetables, right? They're eating a lot of processed food, what's quick and easy. And sadly, making healthy options at home is not always quick and easy.
That's not the priority. Yeah.
It's not the priority, but it should be the priority. Right?
Unfortunately.
That's the route that I typically try to take, just encouraging healthier habits. And that means, even with me, I eat one raw meal a day. Try to incorporate that in some way, shape, or form. And today I'm kind of behind to get my juice out the refrigerator soon. But I always really just try to encourage implementing those small changes, because I've even had individuals on my program, smaller programs that I offer, that did something as simple as switching their morning routines from eggs and bacon and cheese and coffee and switching it to a smoothie and maybe a parfait or acai bowl. And
I love those. Those are the best.
That changed how they felt throughout the entire day. Like, they had energy, they weren't fatigued, they weren't crashing by noon. So simple changes that you can make as far as incorporating healthy options go a long way, but it does take maybe a little extra time and prep, but overall, you're going to feel more energized, you're going to feel more focused, and you're not going to have that crashing that people typically have later on in the afternoon, midday,
Yeah, because it was very interesting to me when I was sampling your meals for the cookbook. I mean, I was really shocked at how great tasting the meals were. With all of it being plant-based. And it's like, really, it is not even night and day as far as the meals in comparison to what I was eating normally to it being, let's just say the same. Well, let's name one of the meals. Not was it the nachos?
I mean, nachos.
My gosh, I couldn't even tell with the nachos. I couldn't even tell that it was plant-based, and I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even believe it. So, I mean, okay, I know you don't offer meal prep, so that's the biggest killer, is having to prepare the meals. How do you work with your clients to encourage them and keep them uplifted and making sure they take it seriously and they follow through with preparing their meals and following through with the diet that you suggest?
So honestly, a lot of the meals that I offer are things that I cook in my kitchen. So being that I know when I first transitioned, I was eating at different restaurants, and I've probably eaten at like tons of restaurants across the country because I travel and do IT for work too. So I'm all over the place with that. But with me trying these different restaurants, I noticed that some of these vegan and vegetarian restaurants just were not hitting on what I wanted them to hit on, right? And you're like, these foods are not ideal. This is not good. So I decided to get in my kitchen and kind of start sampling and recreating a lot of the dishes that I like growing up, because I'm from the country girl, grew up raised in the South. Pork chop, fatback, all those types of things I used to eat. So I wanted to be able to reintroduce that to people in a healthy way. And that's kind of why I started cooking. So with my clients that are struggling with eating healthy foods, I usually offer them a lot of my recipes that I have, of course, curated. And oftentimes they enjoy them. They're quick, easy. Now I do have some meals that will take a little bit longer, but for the most part, I will encourage them to try the things that I have enjoyed, and I usually get really good reviews. And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was, something
Possible.
I could do.
Yeah.
So that in itself really encourages them, because they're like, okay, I can actually make something healthy for me that not only I will enjoy, but my family will enjoy as well. So that really encourages them. And then I have some clients that, of course, are really not big on cooking. So when I do develop those recipes, I try to be specific as possible as far as like what to do, what you need to have, and really make it fun for them. And usually they enjoy the meals, and they're pretty consistent on creating those meals. Of course, there's always some that are just like, oh goodness, like, I got busy this week, I didn't cook as much as I wanted to, but they were able to find other healthy options, because I also offer that, like restaurants maybe in your area that are going to be ideal for you and stuff. So yeah.
So that's something your cookbook is gonna offer, like restaurants that you can find certain meals at, right?
So my programs, I typically offer that in my program. Now, the cookbook is just strictly like the food.
Your meals.
Yes.
Your original meals.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And where can people find you to inquire upon how to get the test done? Do you service people nationwide, worldwide? Are you able to service people virtually?
Yes.
And where's your online presence for the most part?
So the best way to reach me would be, of course, going to my website, www.holisticessentials.com, or you can find me on Instagram, holistic_essentials. I am, of course, always on social media here, there, and I do post a lot of my meals and stuff there as well. But as far as my services that I offer, I am a virtual health coach, I guess you could say. So a lot of my services I offer is going to be online. So many of the consultations that I will be having with my clients will be via Zoom. We can meet, pretty much anywhere. And then, of course, if you are local to the Orlando area, then I am here as well too. So yeah, I'm found virtually.
So working virtually with a client, what challenges do you come across with helping them get rid of things out of their pantry? Because I know sometimes you do it in person, but in cases where they have to basically honor the system, right? Honor the program. How do you get them to, do you do, even through video, have them clean out their entire pantry?
So I don't go that far. I typically give them a list of chemicals and toxins to avoid, and then I leave it up to them to, eliminate those chemicals and toxins. And then, of course, when we have our sessions, I'll kind of ask, hey, were you able to kind of go through your pantry, clean out those things? Are you reading labels? Because when you're doing this program, you have to read labels. And oftentimes when we're grocery shopping, I used to do this as well.
That's a good preventative measure.
You look at the front of the package and it's attractive. The marketing is beautiful, nice colors.
It says organic.
Non-GMO, right?
All the good stuff.
Exactly. But the truth is really when you flip it over and begin reading those ingredients. And I really encourage my clients to do that, because that's really what's going to make the difference in your overall health. Don't take the food for face value. Really flip it over and read what's in there, because once you read what's in there, you know exactly what you're getting without being convinced that it's something that it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I would imagine that's the biggest challenge, because now not only are you investing more time in the kitchen, right, preparing and cooking,
Yes.
you also have to invest more time on the forefront, where most people, they're rushing through shopping and they're not reading while grocery shopping, they're just grabbing the things they've been having for years.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing about it, just as if like when you were growing up, you have those staple items that you would eat, right? You maybe had your mac
I
and
haven't
cheese.
had Fruity Pebbles in forever.
Exactly.
I was craving them the other day.
You don't even think to look at the back of it, but even when you transition over, the first parts of it is going to be challenging. It's something new. It's going to make you uncomfortable. You have to read those labels, and after you find those foods that, hey, I know this is a healthy brand, I know this is quality, you can then kind of go back in the store and be like, okay, I'm going to grab this, this, and that. The only thing with that is every now and then you need to revisit those products and make sure they haven't changed the ingredients, because I've run across that with certain products, even with my yogurt. So my yogurt, I think it once had maybe 10 grams of sugar. I try to cap my sugar content at 10 grams, but it had 10 grams, and then
Is that per meal or
well, just
per,
in
like
the,
overall
in the
in a
container.
day?
In the
Okay,
container.
in the container itself. Okay,
I try to
gotcha.
limit it to like 10 grams, but with that particular brand, they decided to change a few things. And instead of 10 grams, it has 13 in it now. And I've seen that with different kombuchas too. It had maybe 7 grams, now it's 14. So really paying attention to that.
And now is that added sugar or?
Added sugar, yes.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
So,
Because that's the thing. A lot of things say no sugar, quote unquote, but most people don't realize it's no added sugar.
yeah, yeah.
So you're
So
still
you gotta be
consuming.
careful.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful, because that sugar turns into empty calories, and then usually turns into fat, and then we have a whole other problem. So, yeah, for sure.
Okay. So does your program work for individuals and individuals only, or have you come across an entire family who would be interested in participating in your services?
So, yes, I've had families that are interested, but I do not encourage a family to go on the protocol. And the only reason I say that, imagine if you and your family decided to go on a protocol, right? You have different foods that you can eat. Your daughter has different foods that she can eat. Your wife has different foods that she can eat, you know, so on and so forth. And imagine trying to have a family dinner, and you can't eat certain things, they can't eat certain things.
Correct.
That creates a lot of issues. So I typically, have, if it's a family, one person go through it at a time, unless you have the guy that's cooking, the wife that's cooking on her own, and kind of doing their own thing. But oftentimes, dinner time, meal time, that's the time you spend time together.
Yeah, exactly.
So I usually don't encourage to do that, because it can create a lot of chaos, and it doesn't really allow you to fully focus on you, because you're focusing on everybody else, and it's already a tedious process, and you're dealing with changes. So I usually encourage whoever's going on, say if you're going on it, have your wife support you in that process. And then after you go through the program, she's interested in doing it, then of course,
If
then
she sees the
too.
results and how effective it is and the
Absolutely.
lifestyle change.
Absolutely.
Usually there is that influence amongst
Yes.
couples and families.
Having that level of support is really key, because changing your food intake and shifting over to something that you're not really used to can be emotional and very challenging, and create like a lot of different like I said, emotions overall. Like you don't know how you're gonna respond to it. And oftentimes we all think we're super strong, but then having a level of support there to help you through that process is key.
It helps that boost with that boost and to stick with it.
Yes.
Now, do you ever suggest or have any periods of fasting during your process? Or juicing only? Like how do you include those elements in which some people should, in order to properly cleanse, they should go for a certain period of time without consuming anything and or juicing instead of consuming hard foods?
So I don't typically have my clients doing a strict regimen as far as juicing or fasting or anything, because even with this program, when you take out certain foods, so for instance, if you're a person that's been eating Jack in the Box, McDonald's, Hardee's, all those types of things, and then we find out that you are sensitive to certain soy products, certain vegetable oils, so on and so forth, and other toxins and chemicals, you're going to have to take those things out and set them on the side completely, right? So that is somewhat of a detox already, right? Because you're removing those foods. And now you're having to figure out, okay, well, I can have these specific foods to eat, so I have to work with that. So I don't really introduce a level of detoxing to that level. I will incorporate juicing in some of their meal options if they're interested in doing so. But the goal, of course, is to eat foods that are going to support you, whether you're chewing them or you're juicing them. Just to add those types of things in. It's not just kind of restricting you because you're already going through a big overhaul, right? As far as your diet. So I don't really encourage too much fasting or any of that type of stuff because that, along with the change in the lifestyle, can be a lot for a lot of people.
Of course, it can get overwhelming and be a little too much of a challenge.
Absolutely.
Now, I know you mentioned in some cases food has an impact on acne. You went through it where when you did the oils in your hairs, you had the bumps come up on the back of your neck. Do you do any topical products, any skin products? Do you do anything in that respect of healing to help your clients as well?
I do offer recommendations for certain products, but this is the thing. I don't typically offer those recommendations until after we get the test results because if I'm recommending a product that has a chemical or some type of plant derivative or whatever that's in it that could create some level of reaction. So for instance, with me in the oil, onions were on my list and onions were in the actual oil. So you don't ever want to recommend a product that may be counterproductive ultimately, you know what I'm saying? And create some level of issue. But I do and will recommend products that are going to be aligned as far as holistic, natural, organic, so on and so forth, if it makes sense for that person, right? Because if you want to transition over fully, you have to pay attention to your products. You have to pay attention to what you're putting on your skin, your detergents, your water, all those types of things. That's, of course, taking it to the next level, but necessary in order to create a lifestyle that's sustainable.
Okay, so once people reach out to you, they find you on your website or they reach out to you through the social media, how can they get started and, you know, when do things get initiated?
All right, so you can either go to my website, www.holisticessentials.com, go to the Work With Me tab, and if you're interested in my 6-month program, the Road to Gastrointestinal Healing, it will be on the Work With Me tab. Now, if you happen to find me on Instagram, if you go to my page, I do have a link in my bio, and then it also will take you there. If you click on the Gut 101, it'll take you straight to the Road to Gastrointestinal Healing program. You also can sign up for a consultation by visiting the link in my bio as well. We can, of course, decide on what type of plan will work best for you by visiting that link. And that's pretty much how you get started. Just reach out to me. I am available and ready to work with you guys.
All right, well, there you have it. Thank you so much, Alexis Littlejohn, for joining us today. You know, big shout out to all of our sponsors. I want to give a big shout out to Dylan Pierre for sponsoring us on this episode with the camera work and production. Again, big thanks to Alexis Littlejohn with Holistic Essentials. And this is So You Can Florida. If you guys have any questions pertaining to Holistic Essentials, Alexis's services, and how to whip things up in the kitchen, feel free to reach out to me and I can put you directly in touch with her. And anything regarding the Central Florida real estate market, you can reach out to me, your host, Robert Morillo with Compass Florida at 407-209-7409 or at Real Estate Papi Shampoo on all social media. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.